And I want us to begin to look at this again. Some things, may be a kind of refresh to you. Some things will be new. But I want us to begin to understand that what we're doing and to put into context the word that we hear and how it's relevant for our lives. What we do individually and what we do as a ministry. Amen? Amen. So let's read this. I'll go ahead and read it. 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 18 through, and I think I may read it all the way through. I think I'm going to read all the way through 31. But it says, "For the message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved, it's the power of God. For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, the intelligence of the intelligent I will frustrate. Where is the wise man? Where is the scholar? Where is the philosopher of this age? Has not God made foolish the wisdom of this world? For since in the wisdom of God, the world through its wisdom did not know him, God was pleased through the foolishness of what was preached to save those who believe. Jews demand miraculous signs, and Greeks, they look for wisdom. But we preach Christ crucified. It's a stumbling block to Jews, and it's foolishness to Gentiles. But to those whom God has called, both Jews and Greeks, Christ is the power of God and the wisdom of God. For the foolishness of God is wiser than man's wisdom, and the weakness of God is stronger than man's strength. Brothers, think of what you were when you were called. Not many of you were wise by human standards. Not many were influential. Not many were of noble birth. But God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. God chose the weak things of the world to shame the strong. He chose the lowly things of this world and the despised things and the things that are not to nullify the things that are, so that no one may boast before him. It is because of him that you are in Christ Jesus, who has become for us wisdom from God. That is our righteousness, holiness, and redemption. Therefore, as it is written, let him who boasts boast in the Lord. Amen. Amen. Heavenly Father, God, we thank you for today. God, we thank you for your presence, Lord. We thank you just for being with us. We thank you, Heavenly Father, just for the ultimate sacrifice. Lord God, we pray that as we transition into hearing a word from you, God, I pray that you have a word that's relevant for each and every one of us. God, only you know the specifics of our lives, of our thoughts, of our emotions, of our heart, of our situations. And so, God, I just pray right now that you would meet each and every one of us exactly where we are, that you would speak into our lives, that whatever it is that we're looking for, whether it's comfort, whether it's clarity, whether it's direction, whether it's healing, whether it's hope, God, I pray that you would give that. I pray, Lord God, that you decrease me to the smallest capacity so that you may increase. Allow me to be a free-flowing vessel, Lord, that's full of your word, that pierces the flesh, and that it touches the heart, that it falls on good soil, Lord, that it takes root. That we hold on to this word, Lord God, and that we leave here differently and better in the manner in which we came. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen, amen. So, when we looked at this before, we have Paul, who is well-versed in Corinthian culture, right? He's well-versed in Corinthian culture, and he's speaking in such a way to where he's meeting them exactly where they are. You have both Jews and you have both Gentiles. And Paul is communicating in such a way to where they understand that he knows them, right? You know, when you look at the epistles, when you look at Paul's letters, when you look at a lot of the New Testament, he's not writing these things because he thinks that they need to hear them. It's a response to what's going on. So Paul is writing, you see the Bible, you see theological things beginning to be unpacked. You see Paul talking about the specifics of whether it's church division or whether it's the crucifixion and what that means, or whether it's leadership or what have you, or whether it's who they view as the leader or what have you, anything. It's a response to what's taking place. And when you look at that from our perspective, there's a lot of things that are going on. And the question is, how are we responding to it? How are we talking about things in such a way that people understand what God has to say about it? Right? So there's a lot of things that were taking place in the Corinthian culture. There was a lot of things that were taking place in the church. And so Paul, in response to what's going on, being an overseer, being kind of that pastor, that leader, that shepherd, is responding to what's taking place and trying to get them back on the right standpoint from a biblical perspective. Theology really intersecting culture. Make sense? So, and I want us to understand this, especially as we begin to come upon the third thought for purpose, as we begin to come upon the second talk, is that people come to salvation, people come to Jesus in a variety of ways. Y'all know that? Not through a variety of beliefs, but through a variety of ways. Meaning that Jesus is very accessible, and he's multifaceted in how he deals with us. And that's a good thing because we different, right? I like one thing, you like another. Some things resonate more with me than they do with you. Some things resonate more with you than they do with me, right? Some things carry more weight. Some things I pay more attention to. Some things carry more weight to you. Some things you pay more attention to, right? And so when we look at Jesus, when you look through the Bible, there's a lot of different ways that people come into a relationship with him. When you think about Nicodemus, a very smart man, very well-educated man, a well-to-do man, comes to Jesus at nighttime. Not while everybody else can see him, because then people will have questions about what he's doing. But he comes at nighttime, and he starts to ask Jesus about salvation. And Jesus begins to communicate that in terms of being born again. He says, for you, we're going to talk about salvation in terms of being born again. And then there was a Samaritan woman in John chapter 4. And they were at the well. They were at the well, drawing water. Jesus begins to speak into her life, but then he begins to communicate salvation in terms of living water. And then you have the woman with the issue of blood. That's in the Gospel of Mark. Suffering from affliction for so long, and then Jesus touches, or he responds to and he heals the pain in her life that nobody else could. So you have him addressing pain. You have him introducing salvation as living water. And then you have him speaking to not this natural birth, but a spiritual birth. Different people coming into a relationship with Jesus in a variety of ways. But that's a good thing. Because you see the contextualization. You see Jesus speaking to each person according to where they are, or addressing what's ailing them or what's paining them. Paining the word? What's hurting them? Let's look at this. Everybody gets a verse. Let me see. I don't know. Does everybody get a verse? Somebody go to Genesis 15:1. They're not large portions. Q, you got Genesis 15:1. Shonda, you got 2 Samuel 7, verses 4 and 5. Shane, you got 1 Kings chapter 6, verses 11 and 12. Tyrion, you got Jeremiah 1. I say that so much, you should know it. Jeremiah 1, 4 through 5. Keisha, you got Zechariah 1 and 1. That's it. Mm-hmm. Okay. 2 Samuel. Shay. Oh.
The word of the Lord came to me, saying, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations.
Keisha.
In the 8th month, in the 2nd year of Darius, came the word of Jehovah unto Zechariah, the son of Berechiah, the son of Iddo, the prophet, saying, Jehovah was sorely pleased with your fathers.
What's the common theme that you guys see in each one of your passages? Each one of those scriptures. Do you see a unique phrase that's in each and every one of you guys' passages? The word of the Lord came to. The word of the Lord came to whomever. Right? The word of the Lord came to Solomon. The word of the Lord came to Abram. The word of the Lord came to Nathan. The word of the Lord came to Jeremiah. The word of the Lord came to Zechariah. God keeps coming. All of them had different contexts. All of them were different ages. All of them had different situations. All of them were different personalities, different skill sets, different things that they were faced with. And God kept coming with a word. God keeps coming. And that's something that we should take comfort in. Because through everything that's going on, sometimes it feels like he's too far off, or sometimes it feels like our situation is too thick for him to get through. Or our past, right, is too thick for him to overcome. Or things that are taking place in our lives, we feel like God is just too far off, where he can't get a word to us to where we find out exactly what we should be doing. And this is just consolation. This is just confidence that whatever it is that you're going through, whatever it is, God has a way of getting his word to you. God keeps coming. There are people that feel hopeless. There are people who have been desiring something for so long, and their expectations of what they desire are so far from reality that disappointment is just all over them. And sometimes it feels like, God, if you could just change X, Y, Z, then I'll be so much better. God, if you can just speak into this situation that has been given me for so long, then things will be so much better. This is confirmation. This is comfort. This gives us confidence that yes, there are things that trouble us. There are things that have been going on for a long time, but God is powerful enough to permeate the situation and still bring a word that's relevant to us. To speak to right where you are, speak to your situation. God keeps coming. He never loses sight of you. There's never too much around you to where he loses sight of you. There's never too much trouble around you to where he loses sight of you. There's never too much pain within you that he loses care for you. This is important for us to know. This is something for us to take comfort in. This is something for us to draw confidence in. And I wanted to look at various passages speaking to various individuals who are in different contexts and situations and different phases in life, but God works through them. He gets a word to them so that his word and his purpose and his will can be fulfilled. A lot of times we think that there's just space. And there's a lot of space between us and God because we feel lost in our situation. And it's not the case. But the important thing is being able to meet people exactly where they are. And God does it. And the good thing about us is that he equips us to do it. So our question is, how do we stand in the gap? How do we be that ambassador? Because when you think about an ambassador, that's what an ambassador does. An ambassador is one that goes before and represents where he came from. He's standing in the gap between where he comes from and who needs to hear from him. And Paul refers to us as that. Ambassadors of Christ, as though God were making his appeal through us. God is still trying to get a word to people. Did you know that? God still wants to speak into people's lives. And when you look at how Nathan came, it's the same thing. One of our passages, the word of the Lord came to Nathan, and Nathan had a word from the Lord to give to David. Bless you. God doesn't stop doing that. The word of the Lord will come to you because God needs to get a word to somebody you know. He still works like that. And so I want to talk about this. I want to look at what Paul is doing again, just to kind of refresh our memory, because we're about to do some things. We're about to come into, right, relationship and close proximity to the community, to a lot of people, because we're getting to that point in time where we do these two things that are staples of our ministry, this talk and then fun for purpose. So looking at this, what I love about this, what did we notice in 1 Corinthians when Paul was writing to the Corinthians? There's two words that he uses over and over and over again, and it's by no mistake. I'll read it one more time. Stop me when you figure out these two words. Hopefully don't take all 31 verses. Or 18 and 31. So, what's that? 16 verses? Whatever. They're going to be like, oh, Lord, the pastor don't know math. For the message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing. But to us who are being saved, it is the power of God. For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, the intelligence of the intelligent I will frustrate. Where is the wise man? Where is the scholar? Where is the philosopher of this age? Has not God made foolish the wisdom of the world? I'm putting emphasis on a certain word now. Wisdom?
And why?
Wise, wisdom? What's another one? What's different? Those are all? You got one? Yeah, wisdom. Wise is kind of like the root of wisdom. So, foolishness is kind of in the same category because it's the opposite. And so he's using that word, but using foolishness for a reason. We'll get to that. What's the other word? For since the wisdom of God, the wisdom of God, the world, since in the wisdom of God, the world through its wisdom did not know him, God was pleased with the foolishness of what had been preached to save those who believe. Jews demanded miraculous signs. Greeks look for wisdom, but we preach Christ crucified. Right? You go down. But to those whom God has called, both Jews and Greeks, Christ is the power of God and the wisdom of God. For the foolishness of God is wiser than man's wisdom, and the weakness of God is stronger than man's strength. The other one?
Power.
Power. He starts to use it more. There's a lot of usage with wisdom, foolishness, wise, and then power. Right? Miraculous signs, power, weakness, strength. So he's communicating the gospel in two words. Wisdom and power. Now this is his response to them. So why would Paul speak about Christ, predominantly using those two words? Why would he talk about the gospel only from those two words? Bless you. Power and wisdom. Why do something like that?
Well, that's what they value.
That's what they value. That's what they value. The great commission that we have is to what? Go out and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Right? Sometimes going doesn't mean physically going, but go to a person's vantage point. See how they see the world. What concerns them? What's important to them? What do they value? This is exactly what Jesus did. That's called contextualization. God contextualized eternity. So we can't comprehend that. What is eternity? All we know is time. What do you mean you're infinite? We don't comprehend that. So God contextualized himself into our situation. Oh, I understand what a man is. I understand what walking in time is. I understand humanity because that's what I am. So now you introduce eternity. Now you introduce everlasting. Now you introduce salvation. Now you introduce God in a way in which I understand. That's the epitome of, or that's the blueprint for contextualization. It's meeting somebody where they are. It's understanding how they see things first so that you can connect with them to get them to where you want to take them. And that's one of the things that's very important that we've got to understand. Before we can begin to try to get somebody, right, to accept Jesus Christ as their personal Lord and Savior, we've got to see where they're at first. Why are you where you are? What's happened in your life? How did you get that worldview? How did you get that outlook on life? How did you get those feelings? How did you get those frustrations? Or how were you turned off? We got to understand that. So Paul knew because what? Because he engaged them. What are we? An outward-facing church. We try to engage people. Engage the community. Understand where they are. Understand what their conditions are. Understand what their hopes are. Understand what their concerns are. Engaging people has to come first. One of the things that hurts us a lot as the church, holistically, is that we don't engage people. We don't engage people. One thing I heard before, and I will never forget it because it was a good question. This one pastor said, you know what? You have to ask yourself, if we close the doors of this church, would the surrounding community feel it? If our answer is no, we're not doing our job. If the context in which God has placed us, the community in which God has placed us, or the school in this sense, where God has placed us, if we close our doors, we want the answer to be yes. Because it lets us know that we've engaged, we've touched people, we've met people where they are. We begin to represent and be ambassadors of Christ, speaking to people's lives, meet felt needs. But if the answer to that is no, well, I don't even know they was there. Man, ain't never done enough for me. Oh, I wish they were helping out with the situations that we face. And the sad reality is a lot of people can close their doors and the community not even know. That's not a good thing. There's a lot of work to be done, but we have to engage them. There's three things that need to take place to have a theology that really intersects culture, to have a theology that really meets people where they are, and to bring people into a relationship with Christ. Remember these three things. You have to engage, then comes the affirmation, and then comes the confrontation. This is a healthy confrontation, don't worry. But those are the 3 steps. You have to engage, then affirm, then comes confrontation. Then comes the challenge. This is exactly what Paul does. Paul knew Corinthian culture. That's why he can speak about Jesus Christ in terms of what they value. Jews value power, miraculous signs. I know that. I know you. I understand how you see life. Greeks value wisdom, intellect. That's why I'm saying, where's the philosopher of this age? That's why I'm saying foolishness and things like that. That's why I'm using those words, because I know that they strike a nerve with you, because you value wisdom. That's why I'm speaking like that. But notice what Paul does. He's speaking like that because he's engaged them. He's familiar with their culture. He knows them. But then before he confronts them and challenges them, he affirms them. Did you guys see that? Let's read it. Paul is essentially saying that, yes, wisdom is not a bad thing. He's not saying that wisdom is bad. Wisdom is good, but it's just not your wisdom. Power is good, but it's just not your power. For in Christ, it's the wisdom of God and the power of God. He says, so let me affirm you first. You're not far off, but you're basing your life off of power and wisdom. And that's the error. Wisdom and power are good things, but they're not rooted in the right thing when it comes to you. So because I know you, and because I know how much you value that, and because I know you're starting to base your life meaning and value and significance off those 2 things, which is an error, let me first speak to Jesus Christ in a way in which you get it, that meets you exactly where you are. Then let me affirm you and say, you know what, I'm not here to just bash you, but I'm here to let you know that, hey, you're almost on the right track. You've got something here. Let's hold on to that. Wisdom is a good thing. Power is a good thing. But then in love, let me show you, but you were just off a little bit. That's how you begin to speak into people's lives. That's how you really begin to have healthy and fruitful conversation and dialogue. You have to affirm people. Everybody ain't wrong all the time. And if you listen to somebody, because you got to engage them, if you listen to somebody talk long enough, they're going to say something true. What were those 2 things that we have? Common grace and saving grace. We're all created in the image of God. God just gives out beauty, skill, whatever, before having a relationship with him. Because we're created in his image. That's the common grace. So everybody has some truth. If you listen to somebody talk long enough, they're going to say something true. But it's the saving grace in which salvation comes. It's the saving grace that God has called us to be a witness to. So when you're coming into people's lives, when you're speaking into their context, you end up communicating a gospel that they cannot relate to if you don't know them, if you don't understand them, if you can't identify with them, if you don't understand how they see things. And a lot of times, that's where we run off into a lot of problems. Where people keep hearing a word, and you know what? It's one size fits all. And everybody different. What did we start out saying? People come to Jesus in a lot of different ways. Jesus wasn't one size fit all. So why are we? Well, we're not going to be. But holistically, why does that happen? We don't do our due diligence if we think that just telling people that Jesus saves, and telling people that Jesus is real, and telling people that they need Jesus is enough. Then we're not doing our due diligence. We communicate an unrelatable gospel, and that's not Jesus, because Jesus is very relatable and relational. That's why he came and dwelt among us. Y'all getting this? This is good.
Yeah.
This helps you speak into other people's lives. Trying to raise some awareness, trying to educate us so that we can inspire some people toward a loving relationship with Jesus. See how it just weaves in there like that? Y'all with me?
Yes.
Amen. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. Listen, when you communicate the gospel effectively, guess what you end up doing? You end up affirming and completing what somebody already values. A lot of times, people are valuing some things and they're trying to get something that's out of it that only God can give. But when you meet them exactly where they are, and you understand why they value something or what they value, and how they almost, I know what you're trying to get, but you're not getting it in the right way. How you have that communication, how you speak into that person's life regarding that, carries a lot of weight. And it's significant. It's significant. And what we want to do is create a gospel that connects with people. Last week, and I know we were pressed for time, we had some celebrations to do with baptisms. But last week, I had a very, very interesting conversation with a 60-year-old woman. Talked for like over an hour. And I was just going to get some food. And I didn't make it off my street. And I was pressed for time. Man, got a lot of stuff to do. Just trying to get some food real quick, get back, And God was just like, yeah, you're not gonna make it back when you think you are. And so it just happened. I'm going out the driveway. Somebody's coming across. One of my neighbors is coming across, and just with a lot of questions. A house was for sale. It started out like that, and they thought it was our house. I'm like, no, we're not going anywhere. We love our place, And so there was just question after question after question. And I was like, all right, well, okay. I ain't going nowhere, so I gotta keep answering all these questions. But the conversation began to go like this. Are you moving? No. We love this place. We like it here. Raising our children here. So you got three sons, huh? Yeah, and they're gone. So I'm trying to do some studying, give a little signal, so I gotta do some studying, for tomorrow. Usually Saturdays are, my day to kind of do some studying and get ready for Sunday. What are you studying for? I said, well, I'm a pastor. He said, oh, I'm not religious. But she didn't leave. She just turned. I was like, oh, okay. She said, so, about those boys. I said, yeah, I didn't get stuck up on that. I want to listen to her. I didn't have a response, so she said, I'm not religious. I said, whoa, I didn't do anything. She said, I'm not religious. I said, okay. So about those boys. She said, how are you raising them? There's 3 of them, and I know I had some challenges with my children. And I just began to talk, about how I raise my boys, and the things that are taking place in society, and how, we try to parent them, and I said, a lot of what we do and how we do things is based off of our relationship, with God. He informs pretty much our approach to things, and she said, yeah, I grew up like that, but I grew up in the church. But I didn't like it. She said my parents were just all over me with God. And it was just feeding them, forcing them down my throat. And when I got older, I was just like, I just walked away. I walked away at 18, and I was gone, And I said, that's interesting. I said, I did too. I said, I lived in Minneapolis, and I just began to tell my story. And I said, I left KSU started. And I said, pretty much it's personal to me. 70% of graduating high school seniors disconnect from the church once they begin to live life independently. She said, that was me. So I'm like, yeah, that was me too. So we both value family because it's frustrated. It's been a huge pain for her about how she wasn't able or whether she missed the mark with her children. And another source of pain was her formative years growing up and how God was introduced to her. So we've got two things in common. We both parents, raising children, trying to do the best we can. And we both disconnected from the church once we began to do our own thing. And I said, it's been very personal for me, but that's how KSU started. It's because of that 70%. That was me. My father was a pastor. So your father was a pastor. How was that growing up? They didn't throw you off. It didn't make you run away from God. How did you run to God instead of away from Him? Because a lot of people that I know that have pastors as parents, they end up messed up. I said, you know what? I didn't know how good I am. And I'm giving you all of this because this is a message. Because this is real life. She said, how did that work? And I said, I didn't know that I had it this good. I said, but I'm glad I had that model because God was never forced upon me. God was introduced to me, but He wasn't forced on me. And then I didn't have to act a certain way when I was at church. And you know what the good thing was? My father never acted different. He was the same man on a Sunday in front of everybody that he was sitting at the table at home. And I said, I didn't understand how important it was until now. I said, and so when it comes to raising my son, I said, I'm trying to be a good steward over this position that I have, as being a father. And so I'm setting the example and I'm introducing him to the Lord, but I'm never going to force him on. And I say, God weighs too much for that, for me to press him down. And I said, because you can attest to that. It leaves people scarred. It leaves people damaged. You do more harm than good, isn't that right? Yes, it is. She said, I just have a lot of problems with church. For one thing, we grew up poor. And so, if I couldn't give a certain amount to somebody else, then the pastor made me feel like, or made me and my family feel like we weren't any good. I said, yeah. I said, that happens a lot. I said, that's incorrect, but it happens a lot. She said another thing. She said, there was just all of this do and don't do, do and don't do, do and don't do, do and don't do. I said, yeah, that's very legalistic. I said, when you focus so much on the do and the don't do, you miss out on the relational aspect of God. And I said, those are different things that take place, and those are not right. I said, unfortunately, it happens a lot. And there is no perfect church, but there are healthy churches. There are healthy churches. And she was like, yeah, and I tried to take my daughter one time, to church, and that just didn't work out. Because I've never seen anything else different. She said, so I've stayed away. The last time I was in the church was when I got married. She's 60 years old now. She's been married for my whole life. And so we just began to talk, and I said, and I just began to talk about Jesus in a very relational aspect because I knew that her source of pain was all the legalistic stuff, all the do and the don't do. And then when she said, I've never been exposed to anything different, I said, well, let me introduce you to the relational aspect. Let me just talk about relationship. I didn't say it verbatim, but that's what all of my conversation was based on, just relationship. I said it's something how Jesus Christ, He gave up every single thing for us to be in a relationship with Him. I said it's about being in a position to where you know Him and He becomes personal to you. to where he speaks into the context of your life, to where he seems close and not far off, to where he seems like he's helping instead of judging. And I said, when you have that type of relationship with God, I said that becomes very transformative. You know, when you walk through life with him and he informs you about parenting or about what to do. And I said, you know what? You know, we start talking about, you know, what we educate and we teach on marriage, parenting, discover purpose, self-leadership, and financial literacy. She said, I'm 60 years old and I still don't know my purpose. You know? And I said, that's the beauty of a relationship, because all of that, God holds. And that's why he desires to be in a relationship with us, because those are things that only he can feel. I said, but you know what? And this is where it ended. I said, God loves you, and he loves us too much to force us to spend eternity with him if we don't want to do it now. We're created in his image. I said, we can do whatever we want to do. That's what it means to be created in his image. You have free will. You can do your own thing. He doesn't force us to love him. He doesn't force us to choose him or anything. And so he honors that. And I said, God loves us too much. Why would God force you to spend eternity with him if you don't want to be with him now? He loves you too much for that. And her eyes began to water. And she turned away. You know, she was 60. She said, go study, boy. She said, you go study. You know. And I stood right there because I wanted her to look at me again. You know, she turned her head. Her eyes were watering, and she turned back, you know. And I said, he loves you too much to force you. I said, the choice is yours, you know. And she turned away again. She said, you better go study. And I said, give me a hug. Give me a hug. And I hugged her. And I looked at her, I said, you know, I know you haven't been to church in a long time. I said, but we're neighbors. I said, you should come on Sunday. I know you haven't been. I said, but there's something there. She was like, I haven't got my husband inside of a church since he married me. And that was even work. I said, yeah. I said, just think about it. And that's how the conversation went. But that's a prime example of really understanding what people are. Because I feel like if I would have responded as soon as she said, I'm not religious, and to try to defend myself or defend the gospel and not hear her out, we would have never had that conversation. It was predominantly about raising children and church hurt, you know, and having a conversation about those two things, you know, kind of God being our father, me being able to be a father, and then relationship struck some nerve with her, where maybe for the first time, or maybe for the first time in a long time, he felt close, or he felt relevant to her situation. And that's what it's about. People are in different places, and people come to a relationship with Jesus in a variety of ways. And so it's important for us, and I wanted to look at Paul again a second time, you know, just kind of shedding a little different light on it when he's speaking to them, to let us know that, hey, he's responding to where people are. He's not writing that without knowing first what's going on. He's writing those things as a response. And so we have to be able to give good responses now sometimes. You know, we can begin to speak about certain things because we just know go and make disciples, so we can go and lead people to Christ. Let's go first and listen and go to their vantage point, to how they see things, what they desire.